Yeah, it's, well, Scott Williams at the Weather Bureau. We saw -3 degrees this morning out at Ballarat, so they've had their coldest morning for 11 years. Felt certainly cold in Melbourne, although around Melbourne around 7 degrees with a lot of showery weather. So we've seen winter really arrive slightly early this year, but nonetheless, what we're going to see over the next few days is a series of frosty nights, particularly inland, and they'll last through the weekend, in fact peaking over the weekend. Temperatures as low as 4 degrees below zero up in the northeast of the state. Melbourne Saturday down to about 4, outer suburbs will be around 0 to 1 degrees though, Sunday much the same. So we're looking at a long run of frosts under a large high pressure system which has moved in very quickly following this cold front that we've seen yesterday, very showery weather. But what we'll now see is that high prop and sit over Victoria for 3 or 4 days. So that'll give us really widespread and extensive frost right through the state, but particularly in the north of the state, and in fact over much of the country, extending all the way up to Alice Springs in the central Australia, frosty conditions.
How out of character is this for Melbourne this time of year? You know, we're not quite in winter yet. Is this pretty rare to have this kind of temperature around today?
Well, this time of the year we just don't normally get really long runs of cold weather. So a low of 4 degrees coming up. We had 3 last year. We had 2 the year before in June. Usually the coldest runs of weather in Melbourne in June occur in the second half of the month. And in 2013 we had one of those. Got to go back to 2006 for a long run of cold weather right across the state, not just Melbourne, but inland areas. Mildura 10 sub-zero mornings that year, and Wangaratta 24. So it's going to be really hard to beat that year. And if we only have 4 or 5 days this time, then it's certainly not going to come close to what we saw in 2006.
Does it give any indication to what winter will be like?
Not particularly. It's one event, as you know. Events, high pressure systems and low pressure systems are transient, but often tend to last a week or so. So what we're going to see is a pretty large high pressure system this time, and I think Andrew will perhaps explain a little bit in a moment or two about the outlook for winter, but certainly the first part, dry, chilly mornings, crisp, sky clear, so no more snow until next week when that high moves away and we get the next rain event, which is not before Tuesday.
So how many days in a row of frost are we looking at?
5 days in most places inland and 6 for Ballarat, given they were the first off the mark this morning with -3.
Yeah. What was the record you had about Ballarat?
That was, you mentioned it, yeah.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
But
-3.
you can reiterate that if you like, Scotty.
Yeah, -3 degrees this morning at Ballarat, coldest May, because the